everybody. Welcome to Transcendence Talks podcast. Today, I have a new friend here with me who I'm so excited to talk to. I'm here today with Marston Fries, and she was formerly a finance executive on Wall Street. Today, however, she is a quantum spiritual guide. She's a psychic channel, a multidimensional medium, and extraterrestrial emissary. And I will let her tell you what that's all about. But welcome to the show, Marston. So glad to have you.
Thank you so much, Christy. I'm so honored and so excited to talk with you today. I feel like we have so much that we could talk about here, and I'm so excited to see where it goes.
We absolutely do. And, one thing that really drew me to your content and to end up messaging you on Instagram to have you on this podcast was I felt like our stories of, waking up, if you want to call it that, or
Yeah. Remembering.
remembering, right? We're very similar. And so your content on TikTok kept coming up on my feed and I was so drawn to it. So I'm grateful to have you on, but I'd love for you to share more about just your story and how you ended up from here to here so quickly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my God, there's so much here to say. And I'm always like, where do I start with this? Because the story just goes down so many different rabbit holes. But I guess the best way to say it is I came from a very prominent career on Wall Street in the investment management or asset management industry in my 20s. And, it was really interesting because I had always, like, ever since I was a kid, I always felt drawn to near death experiences and kind of like the unseen. As a kid, I was actually like, I would be in my front yard digging in the ground to find like ancient city ruins and crystals. Like I always felt very attached to something else that I couldn't quite identify. And in my 20s, I had built this really prominent career in asset management. And by the age of 27, I had become vice president of one of the largest asset managers in the world. And, I really thought I had everything at my fingertips. I was like, wow, this is exactly what I've wanted for so long and what I've worked so hard for. And it's everything that I think I should be and everything I've been told that I should be. And about a year later, I got promoted to kind of like the top level within that vice president role at my company. Shortly thereafter, and that was a really quick promotion too. And I remember thinking like, man, this feels so divinely guided because like it just doesn't happen like that.
Yeah.
And shortly thereafter, I met who I thought was the love of my life. And we entered into a very whirlwind romance. And it was one of those, when you know, you know. And I had never been in love before. This was like my first really like real serious relationship. And I just remember thinking, this is why. Like, this is why nothing else worked out. This is why I was led here. And everything. I have the career, I have the money, I have the status, I have the partner, and I'm seeing this, fairy tale life unfold before my eyes, at least in terms of what I was imagining for myself and what I wanted it to be. But there was always something really deep. There was something a lot deeper that I knew was missing. I had this feeling that I wouldn't be in my career for a long time. I knew I was meant for something else, but I could never quite identify what that was. And about a few months after he and I entered into this serious relationship together, it really moved quickly. He died of a heart attack while I was with him. It was very intimate and very unexpected. And I had an out of body experience when that happened. And I saw myself, from the vantage point of the ceiling above us. We were in his bedroom and I saw myself giving him CPR from above. And it was one of those moments where I just knew for so many reasons that everything was changing. And I knew he was gone even before they had confirmed that. And so after this happened, I knew my whole life was changing. And I just knew there was no way that something like this happens just to go back, quote unquote, to normal. And I was like, there's a reason for this. Like, there's no way that the universe just robbed me in this way. And I also knew, and I've always been really into quantum physics. It's kind of been like a secret, like just hidden affinity that I've had. I just knew if the pendulum can swing all the way over here to something beyond my worst nightmares that I couldn't even conjure up, right? Then by the laws of physics, it has to swing all the way to the other end of the spectrum to something beyond my wildest dreams. And I chose to hang on to that and believe that. And I went to a few psychics and mediums after he died to try to connect with him and reconcile, because I found out after he died that he had been dishonest with me about a lot of things. And so I was trying to get this closure with someone who was no longer embodied. And through these psychics and mediums I met with, I was very fortunate to be led to really, really wonderful ones. I learned that I am a medium and I'm psychic. And they were like, you are meant to be doing this. Like, you're not meant to stay in your career that much longer. In fact, you're actually here to build an empire. Like, you're going to be doing something like this is your life's work that you're meant to step into here. And it's really big. And like, your connection with him, the love that you guys shared across time, space, across the veil, is going to be what gives you the confidence to move forward on this path and really trust it. And they were right. And so what started happening was I started experiencing all of these psychic and mediumship abilities coming online in really astronomical ways, like ways I could not ignore in client meetings. Like in my financial advisor, 65-year-old white conservative male client, like his mother would be coming through with a message, and I like had to navigate, what was happening and what this was, and it was all new to me, and it was all like just bubbling up and exploding, and I was like, oh my God, I cannot act like I care about peddling investment products to financial advisors anymore when I'm aware that there's so much more going on than meets the eye in our physical reality.
Yeah.
And so I started having more and more experiences like this, including one at a Forbes event that I was hosting with Forbes. And like, that was like a marker for me where I was like, oh my God, I am a medium. And I feel like I'm a lot more powerful than I was giving myself credit for.
So were you transmitting these messages?
So it was one of those things where I wasn't at first, like I kept them all to myself at first, but then they started coming through more powerfully and more strongly. And I just allowed myself to kind of be this channel and this vessel. And it would happen in a really natural way. I wouldn't say like, oh, hey, by the way, John, like your mom's here. And, but it would happen in a very lovely way. So for example, there at the Forbes event, I was talking to this one client. He in his 60s, white male, very conservative. We had only met one time. I really didn't know this man well, but we were chatting before the happy hour began, before the cocktail reception began. And I kept getting the sense that there was the presence of like a male figure in their early 20s present with us, but I was the only one there below the age of 40. And so I was like, this is really weird that I'm picking up this energy while talking to this man. And I just remember really getting this feeling. I just saw the number 23 in my mind's eye so clearly. And I saw something really sudden. Like I saw like headlights, like just flashing. And I just got this feeling that I needed to ask my client, like he had asked me how I was doing, and I had just returned from leave because I went on leave when my partner died. And so I was just returning back to work. And I was like, well, I'm actually honestly, like I'm doing okay. Like this happened, my partner died. It's been a lot. I've been doing some really deep healing and inner work, but I'm doing okay. And so we talked a little about that. And I said, I feel like I have to ask you, have you ever had any type of experience with death, somebody close to you dying? Like, have you ever wondered what might happen after we die? Is kind of how I phrased it, which I would never have had the audacity to like ask a question to someone like that at such a black and white conventional event or setting. And he just looks at me and he goes, you know what, Marston, I've never talked about this openly with anyone before, but I feel like I can with you. And my little brother died when he was 23, and he was in a car accident on the Pacific Coast Highway, and he hit a telephone pole. And he was like, I've often wondered if I should go back and visit that site to get closure, but I tucked it away. This happened, 30 some years ago. And I really never talked about it with anyone. And he started getting emotional. And I just remember thinking, we had such a lovely conversation, and then we went back to the cocktail reception like nothing happened. But I just remember thinking like, oh my God, this type of conversation is so profound and impactful. And if I can feel the way that I just felt being able to open up with him and allow him to open up this way and facilitate this type of healing, that's all I want to do. Mm-hmm. And like, I can't keep doing these client meetings anymore and pretending like this is something that I care about when my entire being and soul is guiding me in this other direction.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, so all these experiences started happening like that, and ultimately I started getting messages. I started trusting my intuition more because I'd been gaslighting myself. I'd been super psychic and intuitive my whole life, but I just gaslit myself constantly, and which I feel like you and I could talk a lot about.
Yeah, there seems to be some universality in this experience, I think, where there's some kind of
Hmm.
catalyst that gets people to start really listening to themselves
Yeah,
or trusting
yeah,
themselves more. Because really, for me, it's been a journey of self-trust
right.
in knowing
Yes.
what I know. But for me, it took a catalytic event as well. And I hear this, and for a lot of different psychics, mediums, where, they had a loved one die that woke them up, a repressed memory that was processed, a traumatic event. But
Hmm.
it's interesting. My hope is that that's our generation's experience. But for the next
Mm.
generation coming in, that we can just kind of nurture that self knowing and self trust so they
Yeah.
don't need these catalytic traumatic events to wake them up to the nature of their
Yeah.
soul.
Yeah, oh my God, 100%. And that's a perfect segue because that's what my guides have shared with me about the new generations and the new parents, really, the new wave of parenting, because we'll be so much more healed in our ability to parent. And I don't mean like you and me necessarily, but just our generation entirely. And it's interesting because what happened like after all these events started taking place, I started getting messages that like I was about to be approached by someone, and I knew that like someone was coming in with like big communication for me about my career, but this was also like something to do with love, and like this was like a partner, soulmate partner. And I remember being like, I'm not, this was in 2024, like just, a few months
Wow.
after my partner had died. So this was all last year.
This is
And I
so
remember
recent.
this is so recent, and this is why I'm saying like it was so expedited. My whole path was just so expedited. And I remember like kind of resisting this and being like, I'm not interested in dating anyone. Like I no. But the messages I kept getting from these psychics and mediums, but also from myself, like my intuition was like, someone's coming in. Like I kept hearing someone coming in, and I was like, well, I mean, who am I to resist the universe? Clearly, the universe has proven to me that I am so not in control. And, like I'll make all these plans, but goodbye. So, what ended up happening in September of last year, of 2024, was I was openly contacted by my extraterrestrial guides. And they made me aware that they're extraterrestrial. They made me aware that I'm extraterrestrial. They made me aware of our soul origins, and that this was an agreement that we had on a soul level. And they gave me this entire life review, and they showed me like you're on this timeline right now. We need like a train, like a car on a train track. We need to pick you up and put you on this timeline because you have something to do here on the planet, and we need to get you there right now. And this is like divine intervention. And so there was a lot that happened in the contact experience that I won't, there are a lot of details there, but I learned that my partner, my extraterrestrial guide partner who was coming in to make contact with me, who kind of facilitated this, I learned that he is my partner, that he is actually my partner, like romantically too, and that we're meant to step into this partnership together in this lifetime to bridge dimensions of existence and to bridge civilizations of humanity, because he is human, but he's not Earth human. He's of a different civilization. And there was so much healing that took place in this experience. They were teaching me how to astral travel consciously. They were teaching me about consciousness transfer and how that's actually a mechanism that's used by them pretty regularly to transfer, not just transfer consciousness between avatar bodies, but to transfer consciousness to the ships, to have experiences on board their ships without actually taking the physical body with.
Yep.
And so we
Yeah.
were having a lot of those, and they were telling me your physical body will be moving onto a ship here, but not yet. Your physical body will be coming with you, but we're getting you used to our energy, our vibration, which is higher than we're used to on Earth. So my physical body would react in certain ways through like convulsing and twitching when they were around. So they were like, we need to get you used to our energy before you actually move in with us, and do what you came here to do, really, which there's so much to that. But
Yeah. Did it feel electric to you? I know when I'm in their presence, it almost feels like it's funny, I don't experience this a lot anymore, but when you're little and you're like barefoot on the carpet and you go to like tag a sibling and
yes,
there's
yes,
a
and you
charge
like
of like
rub your legs
transfer.
together.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But it feels like that almost all over or down your spine. It's a real
Yes.
unique
Staticky.
energetic imprint.
It is, and that's such a wonderful way to articulate it. And that's how I feel. I would get like crown chakra tingles, almost
Yeah.
like a waterfall kind of coming over my head, and I would feel my body just it would start kind of like my head would start like shaking like this, and I would start kind of almost like tremor shaking, like a dog will like shake off trauma, you know? It was kind of like that, and I would feel yeah, like this jolt of electricity, like you could just tell there's a charge in the
Yeah.
field around you, in the energy
Hmm.
field.
Hmm.
So
Now,
that's exactly it.
did your partner, was he aware of his extraterrestrial nature, or is that something that you guys had to kind of discover and come into like acceptance with?
So my partner is extraterrestrial. Like he's
Hmm.
not human here.
He's not in human form.
No, no.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Okay.
but he is. So we're not in physical union yet. He came in
Right. I see.
telepathically, and so
I
psychics and
see.
mediums could see him, and they were like, "You have someone coming in. He's at a distance right now." So I kept getting like, "There's a distance. There's like a culture barrier, a language barrier." So he taught me how to speak. I was speaking light language fluently with him, and he is in human form, but not on Earth.
I
So there's
see.
a
Yep.
whole civilization of humans, right? That multiple civilizations of humans, but he's currently on one of the ships or stations, and like the Galactic Federation station, the Intergalactic Confederation stations. There are several of them where people like us are living.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I am about my understanding because what just happened was I was just on this retreat where I was contacted more physically, and the ships started coming in, and the people on the retreat saw them and saw me communicating with them, and it was like the coolest experience. And that's where I learned that I will be spending more time on the ships physically with him, and making our union actually physical, which will serve as the bridge for Earth humanity joining the Galactic Alliance and
Wow.
becoming interstellar in nature. So they made me aware of my role here
I
in our
see.
partnership. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, it's interesting. I have to tell you this story. So I have
Yeah.
a friend who has a daughter and she writes fantasy novels, but the fantasy novels are obviously inspired on her real
Channeled.
life experiences. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, you know, she's married and she has children. And when she was pregnant with her second daughter, she would have dreams all the time of this white-haired humanoid extraterrestrial that was either Pleiadian or Lyran. She wasn't quite sure. But, you know, he would contact her in her dreams. They would even make love,
Yes.
but it was
Yes.
it like energetically and but it was a very real experience to the point where she was married in her third dimensional reality and she started to feel guilty for having this
Yeah.
relationship with this other man in another dimension. Well, she
Yeah.
ended up getting pregnant by her husband. And when the baby was delivered, the baby was born with a white streak of hair.
Whoa.
And she knew that the baby was a hybrid and that it wasn't necessarily
So
her
that
husband's, right? That the DNA was spliced.
I cannot believe, honestly, Kirsty, I cannot believe that you're telling me this right now because what it keeps coming through, what he keeps telling me is that I'm getting pregnant soon. And I know. I know. And I haven't shared this publicly at all, but I just feel like this is what I'm meant to share with you because I know I know I'm in physical union with him soon. I've been guided to close my calendar, like get everything ready because I'm moving into this next life cycle with him. And I do know pregnancy is a big part of it. And it's interesting because there's been a lot of physical intimacy and emotional intimacy and really like allowing myself to be vulnerable with him and to trust this. And there is a lot of interdimensional aspects to this. And I've learned the like we are multidimensional beings. We don't just exist in this third dimensional reality. So it actually is very possible to get pregnant through interdimensional lovemaking. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but if people really understood how much of us exists beyond this third dimensional physical reality that we can interpret through our eyes and ears, it would make a lot of sense to people. And actually, there's something like with you and I were talking about this before we went live on here, but like the religious aspects of all of this and like Mother Mary and like how that was
Mhm.
an extraterrestrial birth. And it's just, it's interesting that I can't believe you brought that up with your friend because
I've never shared
it's,
that. Something just
wow,
told me I needed to share that
you were
today.
so
I
meant,
know.
oh my God, it's real. It's
Yeah, it
real.
is. It is.
And
I want to
that's what
bring
I've been
it
feeling.
like earthy for like our listeners. This is a podcast that bridges psychology and spirituality. So there's probably people
Yeah.
listening like I know you and I could probably just go off into the stars and have these conversations.
I know people are like, wait, what are we doing?
Right? So I'm like, wait, I want to ground this in for people because
Yeah,
I'll let you explain this, but I know for me, it's like when I really started breaking it down and what does all this mean? It's in our history books.
it is.
It's in every indigenous culture's origin story crafted. It's the
Yes.
same story throughout all time and space of the people from the stars who came down and who taught
Hmm.
us and who influenced us and who are the fathers and mothers of our civilization.
Yes. Yes.
Some cultures call them angels, some call them star
Yes.
people, some call them extraterrestrials. Call it what you want to call it.
Mhm.
But when we can remove dogma, when we can open our hearts and feel into these stories and the universality of them, we can start to maybe experience it a little bit differently. And I'll let you add to that, because I just really
Yeah,
want to ground this for people so they're not
I
like,
agree. No, I agree because trust me, I we both have been in that world, right? And it's like, okay, we know how this sounds, but oh my God, it's I love that you brought that up because it is, I think so I wrote a book, it's called Trust Fall. It's about my whole journey and like everything, start to finish, everything that's opened up. And I mentioned my partnership in here and everything I learned about this and how it does date back to ancient priesthoods, priestesses and like ancient Egypt. Like this was like a big thing, a big part of all of our history. And I talk about how the conversation about religion, spirituality, quantum physics, energy, extraterrestrials, angels, demons, it's all the same conversation, just wrapped in
right,
different language, right? And unfortunately, we can use language as a tool for unity or as a weapon for divisiveness. And unfortunately, language has been used as a weapon to divide us for so long. This is why we can't see eye to eye with each other because of our belief systems and our thought forms and our programming. Because that's really all we
amen.
are at the end of the day, right? Is crystallized wave functions, thought forms, programs interacting with the field around us and the information contained on those frequencies. And so this really is, at the end of the day, this is science. This already is proven, and it's almost like we have to look to our history to inform our future, to make sense of our future, because unfortunately we have such a warped and distorted and manipulated, deeply manipulated and intentionally manipulated view and lens and context of our true history and our true human origins. And it's interesting, just to add to that too, I love that you brought up the indigenous tribes and the wisdom there because I was just studying under shamans who are part of the Shipibo tribe in the Amazon. So I spent a few weeks here without my phone, no distractions. We ate a very clean master plant dieta shamanic diet, and we worked with the plants and the medicine and learned all of this. And what was so fascinating was they heard me channeling light language. They saw my extraterrestrial husband partner standing behind me in ceremony. They heard his voice. They saw the ships coming in. They heard me talking to the ships. They felt the electric charge. They knew everything that was going on. They weren't surprised by it. And they also know about the deep manipulation that has been done intentionally on our planet that we've been living under, the planetary management, so to speak, that has been taking place with the cabal. And I mean, there's so much we could say, but they
Yeah.
knew they knew all of this. Like these tribes, these indigenous tribes know all of this. It's the common, quote unquote, common people, the normal people who are working the 9 to 5, who are in their careers deep in the 3D matrix, ordering the Amazon packages. Everyone, the person that I was, right, who and still am, like I still have those aspects of me, and so I know how I'm perceived by people who can't quite see this yet. But it's all these people who are the ones who just haven't been able to, because it's been stripped from them, who haven't been able to fully see this for what it
Yeah.
is.
Well, that's exactly it. And the beauty of the tribes is not only do they have such a rich oral history of all of this information that's been preserved and passed down, but they're still living in harmony with nature, which is what we are and what we've
Mm-hmm.
so
Yes.
intentionally been disconnected and distraction from. Because when you
Thank you.
commune with
Mm-hmm.
nature, it speaks
It's you.
because we are the same. Because we can't pretend separation is the biggest lie, the biggest distortion, the
Biggest
biggest
illusion.
illusion. And it's what we've been sold and we've bought it. And then
We got
like,
it.
and then this planet is like packaged up and sold back to us. It's really weird.
It is
So
weird.
right?
Yeah, it's like
So it's
you're
like,
born in this cage and you're just told
yeah,
that it's not a cage though because you can decorate it however you want, right? And like that we're sold these illusions and these lies. And that's exactly it. I love that you brought that up because you just hit the nail on the head.
yeah.
Like
And so,
this is it.
and they're connected. So they're learning from all that is, because the all
Hmm.
that is just experiencing itself in different waveforms throughout all of the cosmos, including Earth. And
Yes.
so when you just listen, when you
Yeah,
just slow down and you listen, it's all right there. You know, it's
it
hidden in
is.
plain sight.
Hidden in plain sight. And I think that's the thing for everyone to realize too is, and everyone learns this on their own time and on their own terms, but we are souls, consciousness, is bees, whatever you want to call it, having, we're inhabiting these plasmic vehicles, these sentient bodies, avatars. Again, I like to use different words and different language because it resonates for different people. But at the end of the day, this, like everything that we experience is through the lens of our own consciousness because everything that we experience in our holographic external reality is really just a projection of our own belief patterns and our own thoughts. Everything we experience is, I'll use like a business term or economic term, but it's a lagging indicator. Our external realities are not indicative of who we are and where we're going. They're indicative of who we've been and what we've thought and what we've believed up until this point. And so
Absolutely.
there's so much there, but that's how people get caught because they don't see things changing, so they keep repeating the same patterns day in and day out, and that's how I think we fall victim to our realities. It's like this is about like the remembrance of our own power.
Well, and when we live in the mundane and it's ritualized, what do rituals do? In
Yeah,
religion, rituals bind us to a belief system. And it's the
exactly.
same thing in the Western world. We're
Yes,
ritualized into being sold a
yes,
9 to 5, and this is your day, wash, rinse, repeat.
that's exactly it.
You have choices, but within the confines of this infrastructure. And when you like can zoom
Exactly.
out and get this eagle eye view, and you're like, but what if I don't like that infrastructure? Then you're
Then that's
crazy.
me.
But
Then you're
then you say,
crazy.
then you're
And that's
crazy,
and that's the
which is
thing.
what
Like,
keeps you
yes,
stuck. It's cultural, and so it's all by design.
it's
So
systemic.
I want to go back to you. So you see all this is opening up information, everything's coming at you fast, and you are deconstructing an entire life, right? Because again, there's this universality of like there's the catalytic event, but then you have to deconstruct your life once you know yourself, and
You
then you're
do.
kind of reborn, and
Yep.
then you get to know yourself as creator. So at this point in your story, you're like, okay, somebody I dearly love passed away,
Hmm.
and I'm making this huge decision to leave my amazing
Yes.
career, on Wall Street, and I'm becoming this. So what was that deconstruction like? Because I know even though you're being guided by spirit, there's grief in that. There's right, you
There's
question
so much grief.
yourself. Like how did you navigate that? For people who feel like right now I'm going through this and my world is falling apart, am I crazy or do I have amazing amounts of faith?
Right. Yes. And that's a beautiful way to articulate that. And that is what I battled the entire time was I know I am receiving crystal clear communication. I know I'm receiving psychic information, like things that haven't happened yet. And I'm choosing to trust this, to really fall into this leap of faith with my guides, my higher consciousness, my intuition. My whole life fell apart. I mean, the whole thing. Family didn't understand what was happening. I also removed myself from the role that they were used to me playing for all of them. So I completely changed the dynamic of our family in multiple ways, but then also with friendships too. I mean, I had friends who perceived me doing this as like losing me. And there is truth to that. They were losing that version of me because I was changed and I was
Yeah.
becoming a new version of myself. But she needed the opportunity to shine. And this was a complete rebirth. It was a definition of death and rebirth. And it was so excruciatingly painful in many ways. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. To believe in something that people perceived to be psychosis and crazy and delusional and out of touch with reality. But I knew, like on a soul level, and I had people being like, excuse me, you're talking to demons. And, I went back and forth with like, oh my God, like, am I being psychically attacked? And I did confront a lot of darkness. I did, like, I'm a medium, like, I'm no stranger to, when you open up as a channel, you do open up to a lot of that. Um, but this was before I really was able to stand in my power. And so I wasn't grounded in this by any means, but I knew that I needed to trust it. And I know it seemed crazy. And I was so acutely aware of how it looked from the outside in to people who could not even begin to fathom. Like, if I was using a pendulum, there were people in my life who were scared of pendulums, right? And like there was a lot of religious upbringing involved. Not like I wasn't raised really religious, but like just the basics of Christianity, and like this is just how things are, and this is just, you don't disrupt the status quo. You don't leave something behind that feels safe and sturdy and solid. There's a lot of
Right.
scarcity. I was surrounded by a lot of scarcity and limited mindsets and limiting beliefs. And so for me, that deconstruction of Marston, of who I was, Marston, the vice president of, one of the largest asset managers in the world, like the finance expert, was becoming Marston, the newly minted psychic medium. Like I could not figure out what my place was. And unfortunately, society teaches us to place ourselves in boxes because it makes us, and genres, it makes us easier to understand. And people want a nice and neat box to put us
Yep.
in, right? And I was like, I don't fit in a box like this. I don't know who I am. I've never felt less certain of who I am in the world and what I'm doing. And at the same time, I've never felt more certain that I am supposed to be trusting this, whatever this is. It felt so foreign. And I mean, I was being asked to trust some really out there stuff. Like, I'm following my extraterrestrial guides. I have an extraterrestrial partner I'm supposed to believe that I'm coming into union with at some point. I didn't tell anyone about that, by the way. I kept it very, very, like, it was so vulnerable. And now I've had more contact, and I can stand in my truth with this because I know it's real and happening. But that deconstruction of identity was terrifying in so many ways. But it was one of those things. It's once you step off the ledge, you're
Mhm.
there. You're falling, and you're growing your wings on the way down.
Thank you for saying that. That was so beautifully said. You're falling and you're growing your wing on the way down, because I think that's where I see people give up on the path and
Yeah.
they say, you know what? I'm losing relationships. I'm losing friendships. Like, I'm losing things that I love. And they start gripping really, really tight, and that's where people start to walk this spiritual path and realize it's not all love and light. I have to face my deepest insecurities. I mean, I love how you talked about how, you were being challenged in all these ways and you would wobble, but ultimately what that did was really ground you and anchor you into your truth and solidify
Absolutely.
you. And that's the truth of the darkness, because I've been confronted with it too. Nobody gets
Yeah.
initiated into this path without
No.
confronting darkness. And it can
No.
only land on you if it has a resonant place to land. And so it challenges us to look at all the unhealed places within ourselves with radical love and acceptance, and to continue to
Hmm.
put one foot in front of the other anyways. And I
Exactly.
don't think it's shared enough that that's an aspect of the path. That's what rebirth is. It's coming out of the
Yes.
darkness of the womb and it's trusting the void and
Yes.
being like,
Yes.
I don't know what's going to happen when I reach the light at the end of this tunnel, because I can't see it and I can't imagine
Yes.
life outside the
Yes.
womb. And that's just where we are. And it's birth is painful.
Birth is painful. And I love that you brought that up, because that's actually something the Shipibo shamans I've been working with have said, it's not talked about enough, but darkness, we need to greet the darkness. And that's been a huge part of my path. I love that you brought that up. That is our path. That's a part of this, is you cannot get to your full potential unless you and reach that inner balance of masculine, feminine, dark and light, yin and yang. Because spirituality is like, new age spirituality talks so much about like love and light, but it's darkness is neglected. And like, this is the reclamation of the dark feminine energy. This is the womb healing on a collective level. This is on our planet. We are doing a deep womb healing, which means we have to go into the darkness, into the dark forest without a lantern. And we need to trust that we are the light in the dark forest. I mean, I think about like Harry. I used this in a TikTok post, but that I did at one point. But I think about Harry Potter, and there's like a scene. Have you seen the Harry Potter movies?
forever ago.
Okay. There's a scene where Harry and Ron are like walking into the dark forest, and Hermione's there too. But Ron says something like Harry's like, "We have to follow the spiders," and Ron says something along the lines of, "Follow the spiders? Why couldn't it be follow the butterflies?" And it's like, I just think about that all the time because it's like this is the path we're actually being asked to follow the spiders into the darkness. Like there are no butterflies at many points on this journey, and we just have to trust that the darkness is here because light is illuminated in the dark.
That's right. Yeah, and I love that you brought up a collective womb healing because
Yeah.
I think that part of our job as bridges, like you called it, is to metabolize so much of the darkness and pain that's happened
Yes.
collectively. And so individually, we have this radical responsibility to hope to heal ourselves. Because as we
Hmm.
heal ourselves, we're metabolizing our part of the darkness for the collective, but
Yes. Yeah.
vibration is contagious, frequency is contagious. And so as one person says, hey, I'm going to be brave enough to use my voice and say that this is my truth, that
Yeah.
maybe another person listening today will go, you know what? Maybe I need to stop negating these dreams, these visions, these aspirations, these wild ideas that I have.
Yes.
And maybe I can call it what it is. And maybe I can really start examining who I am at a deeper level. And so we're metabolizing the darkness for the
That's
world.
yeah. I think that's so beautiful. It's alchemy.
That's
This
it.
is what we're meant to do. It's transmuting the pain and the trauma into purpose and power and trust. And I think that that's the ultimate creator ability. That's the ultimate what's in our womb space. What are we giving birth to? And it is a painful process, but we're doing, like you said, we're doing it for, this is like to be of service. You have to do this for yourself first, and in turn you will be of service to others. And I think that's something I learned when I first posted those videos on TikTok, which um, this was in late April, so all this has happened pretty quickly. But it was the scariest thing I did, knowing that everyone in my life would see me talking about this, and it was like, this is it. But I have to do this. Like I didn't come this far just to come this far, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember posting those videos, and I ended up getting thousands of people around the world reaching out, like truly just being like, thank you. Because I have had experiences like this, or I felt crazy, or my family said I needed to be medicated because I was having these experiences. My friend tried to put me in a mental hospital, and I dealt with that too. There were people in my life that definitely wanted to do that to me and for me, I guess. But and there were people reaching out saying, "You're giving me the courage to start talking about this too." And I just remember thinking, this was so worth it. Like this was worth it to have this impact on people, to let people know that you're not alone. No one is ever alone on this journey, but it can feel so deeply isolating.
The masculine has been divorced from the feminine in religion. We have the
Yes.
masculine dogmatic, this is what you're going to do, this is how it is, here's the scriptures, you can read them. That's beautiful, that's wonderful. There's a lot of truth there. But what's missing is like what happened to the prophet? It's like
Hmm.
after Jesus was crucified, prophecy ended. Well, it didn't end. It had to go underground because the
Yeah,
prophets were lunatics, because the prophets were witches, because the prophets
exactly.
but God still talks to humans. And as you liberate your voice, as you share on TikTok, it's metabolizing that pain of and not just the feminine, but the suppressed aspect of the feminine, the masculine, who,
Absolutely.
yes,
Yes.
who can't show his emotions, who can't be the channel, who can't express his gifts because he's too soft or he's too sensitive or that's crazy.
Hmm.
So I think we're metabolizing a lot of those old wounds. And I think that shift, that raise of vibrational consciousness is the answer. Like this is spiritual warfare and it's not going to
It
be
is.
fought the way that battles have been fought. It's fought through raising our vibrational
Consciousness.
consciousness.
That's exactly it. And everything else is a distraction. Like
Yes.
it's a weapon. Distractions are weapons.
Hmm. It's noise.
Keep us
Exactly that.
disembodied, distanced from our true selves, to keep us pecking at the ground like chickens. And my guides gave me that example like months ago. They were like, they have you literally pecking at the ground, looking down. It's like the movie. I keep getting all these movie or metaphors, but the movie The Village by like M Night Shyamalan.
Okay, yeah,
Does
yeah.
you know? Okay. Basically, the premise. I mean, it's old, but basically the premise is like all these villagers are, it's like a very kind of old village. They have these monsters in the woods, and so like there's all this lore, around like don't go in the woods, like don't venture out of the village because the monsters will get you. And they did. There were people that died. But one day, and I can't remember fully, I saw this a long time ago, but basically one day someone has the courage to venture out and see what's out there because they're like, this cannot be it. And they venture out and they basically discover, like, I think what they discovered was like a paved road. Like they saw that there was like society out there, like beyond the village, and that the monsters in the woods were actually just like the village government, essentially like pretending to be monsters and killing the people. And I just thought that was such, like, looking back, I'm like, God, what a poignant social commentary, because that is truly what has been done to us on a mass scale. And the truth is, we have been in a mass psychosis. The people who are talking about what we're talking about is, this isn't psychosis. It's the people who think, like, we have been indoctrinated into these lower levels of consciousness for generations.
That's why these are the most important conversations.
Yes.
The most important, because we need to normalize it. We need to start talking about it and not being
Yes.
shy or being feared, to be crazy or judged or whatever.
Yes.
I want to go back to the distortions because you and I
Mm-hmm.
talked about this before we went live today.
Mm-hmm.
But
We had a whole
some of the
nother podcast.
distortions. Yeah, we're gonna have 2 and 3 and
I know. I know.
a whole series. Maybe we'll channel. I don't know.
Please. Yes. That would
My
be
gosh,
amazing.
just seriously. But we talked about that besides the illusion of separation, the other
Yeah.
illusion that we've bought and sold is that our power or God is somewhere outside of us. When Christ said, the kingdom of heaven is within. And so I'm hoping you could speak to that because, like, when you bring up that beautiful analogy of that film where,
Yeah.
don't go walk in the woods, that's a big narrative in the church. Well, don't use divination tools. Like, don't play
Oh
with
my
these
God.
things. Like, don't talk to spirit.
Yeah.
When really that's the path that Christ really
It
walked.
is. It is.
So maybe we could talk about that. How do we know
Maybe.
ourselves as
Maybe we can.
creator?
Yes, exactly. I think that that's the thing too, that people are like, in my videos, it's the funniest thing. I've had so many people be like, you need Jesus. Jesus is king. And it's like, okay, this is like how deep the manipulation is. Because first of all, Yeshua, Jesus, was extraterrestrial, is extraterrestrial, I should say. Like he was here to show, he and Mary, right? Mary Magdalene were here to, which also her story got completely erased. His was deeply
Yeah.
manipulated, right? But like they were
Hmm.
divine counterparts.
Yep.
And they were here to show what is possible for everybody on this planet, because you can be his whole thing, right? He was a carpenter or whatever. And I don't like know the stories that well because I didn't really follow religion growing up, but my understanding is he came from this plain simple background, humble modest background, whatever the case is, and then stepped into this power. Like he was psychic and intuitive and in tune, and had this relationship with spirit, with his guides, with his higher
Yeah.
consciousness. And Mary, and there was like the sacred sexual union, everything that is never talked about, but was
Well, they
here
were
to
Egyptian priests and priestesses. I mean,
exactly,
trained in
yes,
these. Yeah.
and here to show what is possible for
Hmm.
every single person here. And I think what got manipulated so much, I mean, among so many other things, was he's someone to be worshipped. He's a Lord. He's someone to be worshipped outside of you. Find Jesus, he'll save you. No, you save yourself by raising your vibration, by changing your vibration, by changing your very molecular structure through your crystallized wave functions, through your thought patterns, right? And that's the message, is find it within yourself, save yourself, liberate yourself. But the extraterrestrial thing component to this is like, yes, they're here to assist, to help facilitate and to guide and to support, but ultimately we're the ones keeping ourselves in our cages.
There is a reason that only certain gospels were canonized and
Hmm.
that the followers of Jesus had to go bury his teachings in Nag Hammadi, Egypt to keep them safe
Exactly.
because they were the teachings of gnosis, of that inner
Gnosis.
process of alchemy and transformation. And in the book I have coming out next, my guide showed me that cities, right? Like Siddhis,
Yes,
that
yes.
monks or, Buddhists like or Christ could perform, right? Bilocation, levitation,
Hmm.
telepathy are all what happen as a natural byproduct of
We all have
integration
it.
of your own darkness and your own soul. And Christ integrated all of his darkness and was able to hold all of his soul in his vessel. And he's an example of what happens on earth when one man dies. But in
Hmm.
my opinion, and what I kind of highlighted in my book was ETs are an example of what happens when an entire civilization develops cities.
That's exactly
And
it. Hmm.
yeah, so there's
We can
this,
learn from them.
we can learn from them and we can learn how do we develop along these spiritual lines so that we can
Exactly.
take our seat at the galactic table.
Which is literally, I love how you just drew all this together because that literally is where we're going. And what my guides have shown me is, among my physical union with my husband, my partner in this is like this is where we're going. Is we are becoming an interstellar species. We are joining the galactic alliance, the galactic union, whatever you want to call it. This is just the next natural step in our spiritual evolution. And the thing is, right now on our planet, so many people are still locked in those lower states of consciousness, but enough people have liberated themselves from it. Enough people have that the scales are tipped now so that we have the momentum to move forward into this higher timeline and really anchor it in. And I think that that is like, that's beautiful, right? Because it's interstellar consciousness that we're achieving. People call it 5D, Christ consciousness, unity consciousness, but it's really all the same. And that, to your point, is exactly what we're learning from these ETs, from their civilizations. They're just more. It's not. People are like they're so much more advanced than us, and it's like yes and no. I mean, they're no different than us. They want us to view us as their equals because we are. But our planet as a whole has been corrupted and has kept the earth-based souls here, which this is like kind of a tangent conversation, but it has kept the earth-based souls here locked in lower states of consciousness so that they can't achieve these higher levels of consciousness and therefore create an interstellar society and civilization and join the
Yeah,
galactic brothers and sisters that have been a part of us this entire time.
absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. And it's interesting. I see so many like influencers kind of getting on and talking about us being like locked in this prison of reincarnation and these cycles. And for me, when I hear those things, it's like so victim-y. Like, oh no, we're a
Yeah, and
victim
it's
and we're
fear.
trapped. And it's fear-based. But when we take our power back, to your point, we're not trapped. However, there is a collective choice to stay at a certain level of
There is.
consciousness, which
Hmm.
impacts us all. So are
Totally.
we trapped? I guess you could say that. However, if we choose as a collective to shake free, in the Bible, it says it can happen in the twinkling of an eye,
It
right? Like in
can.
a
Yeah.
twinkling of an eye. And because, like you said, as enough people raise their vibration, see truth for what it is, there's going to be an event like that, just it ripples. It
So
ripples.
that's what my guides actually showed me. They showed me
Mm,
that there's going to be a massive global event announcement, some sort of event that takes place, and it's happening soon. They didn't give me details as to when. They were just kind of moving me into my position, and they're moving everyone into their positions for like this is like the people
yeah.
that are like stepping into these positions of service here to prepare for like what's going to happen. It's beautiful, and it's not some like content that's like just going to save everyone. Like it doesn't work like that because it requires us to do the inner work to get there. But the people who are already on this path, the people who can hold this, who can ground this and embody this, are going to be the ones that really need to lead the way here with this because we need to be the lighthouses. There are going to be so many people who this is going to be undeniable. I mean,
Yep.
undeniable, the truth
Yep.
about religion, the truth about what has really been done to us for so long, the truth about our connection with ETs. And so the people that are really just living in their siloed, distracted realities that cannot fathom that this could possibly be true are going to be the ones who struggle the most with this because they won't be able to change or adapt their existing belief system.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it will be challenging. And, a lot of people are in a lot of fear right now. And I
Yeah,
think the powers that be, the darkness, the fear, it's going to hold on because it can feel this wave of light coming.
Earth.
And so we're going to see it get worse before it gets better. I mean, we talked about our individual processes of rebirth, but we're going through that on a planetary level. And
Yes.
again, birth is painful.
We're in the womb.
You're in
Yeah.
the womb, and it comes with a lot of battle scars. And so here
Yes.
we are,
Yeah.
like our souls came here to be on the front lines of this transition. And sure, it's going to be unsettling. Things are going to change, things are going to shift, but
Oh, yeah.
it's
But it's for the
just part
better.
of birth.
It's part of birth. It's part of birth. And, the way I see it, the way my guides have described it, is it's really the return of the original unity consciousness template. We've been living this inverted reality for centuries now. And this is the return of, really, like you mentioned, the Garden of Eden. This is the return of the true Garden of Eden, the true earth that was really always meant to be ours in the first place, before it really got stolen from us. And we have all the resources that we need here. We'll receive all the support, the medical support, the advanced technology that we need to create this quote unquote new planet, which is it's our planet, right? But
That's right.
we anchor these frequencies onto it, our vibration, because Gaia, the consciousness of Earth, Gaia's vibration is raising as well. And so, of course, any inhabitant, you talked about this earlier, we are all nature. We are not different than the ants on the trees outside. We're not different than the trees. We're all connected through consciousness. And so the entire vibration is impacted by this. And so, of course, everybody on this planet will be feeling all of this no matter what. It's just a matter of, how resistant are you to something that feels uncomfortable, to something that pushes you outside of your comfort zone, or something that really radically challenges the reality that you have constructed for yourself, because the very foundation of that reality is now being swept to the side.
The foundation of that reality absolutely is. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it is. And it's very uncomfortable, and people are experiencing it first individually and then collectively. And you
Yeah.
know, if people are struggling with this, like, how could they work with you? If they felt like, okay, I'm going through it, I'm resonating with what
Mhm.
you're saying, like it's shifting my life in a way that's making me uncomfortable and I need support.
Yeah, yeah. Which, I mean, that is the foundation of like why I started the work that I've been doing. So that's a great question. I mean, so I just, my guides have told me I'm being moved into a different position here, and so I actually just I closed my client calendar, so I'm no longer hosting sessions. I was doing psychic channeling and mediumship sessions as well as coaching, consulting for people. But I've been telling people who have continued reaching out and asking if there are any other ways to work together. I'm not doing client sessions anymore, but I am open to receiving emails. If people just want to know that they're not alone, if people want to share the experiences they've been having, or if they just want to know that what they're experiencing isn't crazy, right? Like they need someone to talk to about this. And I read every email I receive and every message I get. And my email is listed on my website. It's just marstonfries@gmail.com. And so anyone is welcome to reach out. My whole goal is to empower everyone to know that while you do have all the answers within you and you don't need anyone outside of yourself, we are not meant to do this alone. We're meant to help each other in this. So I am always here to listen and to offer any sort of just support that I'm able to.
And where can they find more of your content?
TikTok.
Okay.
So I started posting on Instagram like a few weeks ago, and it just hasn't been the same sort of like experience for me or traction. TikTok is where I have absolutely everything, and I have playlists built out as well. So if they want to learn more about accessing their own psychic and or mediumship skills, I have a playlist for that. If they want to know more about my story and my ET contact experience, that there's a playlist for there. I have everything there.
Beautiful. Okay, perfect. Because I know people are going to be reaching out asking where can they find you? Where can they hear more?
Yeah, thank you. And my website's called thebridgingcatalyst.com. I actually have a page on there for I mean I have like my story on there, but I have a page with resources. So if people I have a lot of people who ask like, what books can I read about this, or like where can I read more about this information that you talk about? I have a whole page of resources where they can find pretty much everything. So that's on there too.
Perfect. Perfect. And as we navigate this transition and we're kind of going through this collective shift, what do you dream of? How do you envision the new Earth?
Oh my God, it makes me honestly emotional. Like I just got a wave of chills and emotion with that, because I just know this is so important to my soul. Like this is why I'm here. And what I envision is a world where everybody is accepting of everyone. And there is no, people aren't mocking each other because of their belief systems and differences. People aren't calling each other crazy or delusional because someone else can see something that maybe they can't see yet. I envision a world where there's curiosity and heart open, like just people have lead with love, lead with open hearts, lead with curiosity and expansion. I just picture so much expanding into the magic of synchronicity. Everything in our lives is synchronicity, is magic, because magic's the baseline of the universe. It's the baseline science, and we can view things in our life as coincidence, or we can choose to infuse a little more magic and then experience more of that because it's where our awareness is being placed. And I really see a world where people lean more into telepathy because that's what we're doing with each other anyway. We're just not conscious of it for the most part. So we'll be stepping more into that language of energy where truth leads. You can't fake a frequency. And that's what we're stepping into, and people will be coming together because of their differences, because they come from different disciplines and they have different specialties. It'll be more community based, and we'll be working with extraterrestrial races, and we will be the ones now on Earth traversing the stars. And it's like, when the Wright brothers came up with the concept for the airplane and everyone thought they were batshit insane, but then they did it. And now we're in planes every single day and we don't think twice about it. This is just that next natural step in our evolution, in our progression. And so I see us, exploring other planets and nothing being kept from the people. I really see this big transfer of power and wealth back into the hands of the people. That's what I visualize.
That makes me emotional too. That's beautiful. This conversation has just been so fulfilling to me. Thank you so
Me
much for just
too.
your
Thank you.
vulnerability, for sharing your heart and your
Yeah.
vision. Very beautiful. And so guys, if you're still watching, please like, subscribe. If Marsha's message, if you know somebody needs it right now, please share it with somebody who could use this message so they know they're not crazy and
Yeah.
everything that's happening to them is happening on purpose.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being
Yeah.
here. All right, until
Thank you
next time,
so much,
everybody.
Christy. Thank you.